Hi everybody, and welcome to this session, this International Standards Meeting session that we're pre-recording. This session is going to focus on looking at the future of personal training, some of the trends that are out there, and perhaps how some of those trends have been impacted by the current crisis, by COVID-19. To present to us today, we're very excited and honoured to have Bryan O'Rourke, who is a bit of an industry guru, sits on the Fitness Industry Technology Council, and I'm very interested in that aspect, that sort of technology, digital aspect of what Bryan's going to talk about. But I want to really leave Bryan to take us through this presentation, to give us some thoughts on how that personal trainer role, if that's what we're going to call the role, may change and adapt in the near future and the longer term. So without further ado, over to Bryan.
Thanks, Julian. It's great to see you, and I'm so honored to be able to share some viewpoints with my European colleagues. In the past, I have spoken in person at the standards meetings in Europe as part of EuropeActive and others endeavors in Europe. So, I want to express my gratitude and also my best wishes, as many countries in Europe are going through, as you all well know, another lockdown period. This has been challenging times, but I'm hoping we'll get through this sooner than later. So thank you for your introduction, Julian.
No problem.
We'll touch today, of course, on the future of personal training, and we could take several days and write probably a few books on this. So I know we only have about 20 minutes to seed the basis for a conversation when this concludes. So I hope it's helpful in that regard, given the audience, and kind of puts forth some seeds in people's minds to think about what is actually happening. As you all well know, better than I, a lot of people who are personal trainers in the space in Europe have suffered greatly because of clubs and their suspension of operations and the other effects that are going on as a result of the COVID matter at hand. There, according to 2018 study by EuropeActive, there are well over 70,000 personal trainers in 15 European countries. And so we have a pretty large contingent of professionals providing fitness services as personal trainers, and they've suffered a great deal. But as many others have said over the past months, the COVID situation that we're going through now really only accelerated trends that were already underway in our sector. And those include many variables, one being the adoption of technologies. Others, as I'll talk upon and speak about, which all the colleagues in the room watching this are well aware of, is underlying trends, demographic, chronic illness, and the relevance of exercise as it pertains to managing those diseases and preventing them. These things are only being accelerated as a result. And here's a great example. Now, this is a Morgan Stanley report. I tried to find something that was just European centric, but I wasn't able to at this point. But the same trends are happening in Europe, Asia, and elsewhere. The platform Instagram is now the #1 gym in the world. The point being that trainers now have new ecosystems to distribute their fitness services at very little cost. Recently, Facebook enabled, for example, the monetization of classes on their platform for literally no cost. And so this is just one example of how fitness services now represent, new distribution channels that were already there, but, again, accelerated in their adoption and people's use of it. The recent research report that Deloitte published in collaboration with EuropeActive, that I'm sure you all are aware of, was issued in September of this year, set forth this overview of the ecosystem of fitness. And as you can see, there are all these distribution points where personal trainers can offer services, be it outdoor, which is on the far lower left, moving over to indoor, which includes largely club operators from budget all the way through boutique, corporate, etc., medical, studio. And then we shift to the other components, which are digital, including hotel is another thing before we get into digital, by the way, another channel, and then suppliers. And we can see the various components of those digital distribution channels. And so this is opportunity, really, but we have to rethink how we do things. And many brands were already underway and thinking about how those personal training services could be deployed, effectively, given their specific business model. And I could cite many examples of this in the recent past. One that I enjoy to refer to with Renee and his team is their basic roadmap for customer experience that they published in one of their reports. I saw this at the VitNation event over a year ago, showing you this kind of omni or hybridization model in looking at how the member customer and their journey is being supported with both in-club and at-home models. Now, Basic Fit being more of a budget operation, you can see similar strategies being deployed at Equinox in the U.S. or other well-known gyms, Home Place chains in Europe, many others around the world, looking at this hybrid model, and trainers fit in to this model. I'm going to show you some examples of that, but connectivity in club, out of club, providing content and coaching both in club and out of club through digital tools and in-person tools. I think this is going to be a significant component, a growing component of the industry for fitness as we've known it going forward. And as I mentioned before, this construct was already there before COVID, but it has been, accelerated. And the Deloitte research report that I mentioned that EuropeActive worked on and published in September of this year, shows the digital initiatives that, brands and clubs have undertaken when it comes to services. So you can see the percentages offering based on the survey, what is going on under services being deployed digitally. Digital class offerings in 88% now of those surveyed in Europe. Video plans with digital workout plans, 100%. You can see the numbers. So certainly digital as a component of clubs is underway. But that leads us to a bigger question. Having mentioned chronic disease previously and looking at the underlying trends, health coaching, which has been out there for a while, also becomes a bigger component of this change, primarily because people are even more aware of the impacts of their immunity and well-being through primary prevention, the management through programming and outcomes around health, using professionals in ways to support behavior modification and a more holistic approach to health management. Health coaching, there have been certifications, as I know you all are aware of, around this modality. And when we couple that with digitization, I think the scalability of these services becomes far more realistic from a business model perspective. I think that the COVID situation, again, looking at the seeds that were already planted and were already there, is going to further accelerate this trend. Our demographic shifts are still underway. The aging of most industrialized nations, giving rise to the management of chronic disease and the prevention of it, is just a giant marketplace by comparison. And reimbursement models in the US and in Europe are very real with outcomes. We see these models happening today, and involving human intervention as well, which I'll show, not just technology tools, but the melding of professionals with technology tools, so that, for example, a health coach could manage perhaps 150 to 200 lives pretty effectively with certain technology tools. And those reimbursement models exist in different pockets around the world today already, providing opportunities for compensation and remuneration of these professionals that are pretty interesting in comparison to pure fitness services. Now, fitness services are not going to go away, obviously. We will recover from this COVID matter, and those will return. But we're also very aware of Apple in my recent presentation on why they are entering the health foray. Amazon as well, with their recent announcement of Halo, or Halo, depending on who you speak to, is using these devices to collect data and information and presenting it and tracking it in a way that is really unprecedented. If you're familiar with this platform, it basically uses your phone to take a 3D model of your body. It does things like tracks your level of stress through monetization or monitoring of your voice. Of course, it does activity, etc. And these platforms are very, very powerful. When you blend them with tools and people, it creates a very robust opportunity. The adage years ago, for those who remember from the Popcorn Report, was high tech, high touch. And we've seen in the most successful business models the deft combination of really well-trained professionals who are very good at what they do, with tools that enable them to do that even better, so that when it comes to mundane tasks, we let machines and our cyber-physical systems handle collection of data, handle reminders. But when it comes to very important touch points around a member or patient or client's needs, those professionals are adept at analyzing information and providing human touch at the right points. And I think that we'll see this increasingly in the fitness models, and we're going to see this deployed in new health coach models, creating a whole new industry opportunity that many people have been referring to for many years to come, or before, looking for the melding of medical and fitness, which is out there, but not to the extent that it should be, which is a huge opportunity. Now, in the US and in Europe, you're probably familiar, outside of just clubs and the hybridization model I reflected on with Basic Fit, but there are a number of app platforms right now that do this and utilize health coaches, as a way of example. In the United States, Noom has about 50 million users, and this technology provides, if you're not familiar with it, education, behavior modification, assimilation of scales, activity tracking, food app, tools, and human coaching. So it's an automated platform that involves people to help support a journey to health. And it's a highly successful app platform. I think these type of models will emerge in the club business, as we've seen with the example of Basic Fit, more and more, because I think it'll enable trainers to reach larger audiences, both purely digital in nature in club and then the hybridization of those two things. I also think they will, as I've alluded to before, emerge in new models of health management. And we've seen several examples of these out in the wild right now, showing these high-tech, high-touch platforms with tools that create a robust path. And, you know, realizing 5G connectivity is emerging more and more, so speed of face-to-face communication via digital devices. When we look at high-speed internet reaching well into the upper 90 percentile of most people in Western Europe, the US, and other places around the world, you know, doing this becomes very, very realistic as a business model. And so that's going to be a very big and real opportunity for coaches to do that as part of a solution or to break out on their own on new platforms where they can be entrepreneurs without the need of any assistance from bigger organizations, finding their own content, as we showed you before with the Instagram examples. There are many brands out there of individuals using these tools as well to build their own companies, their own entrepreneurial journeys, as opposed to open a studio or a club, let's say. So I think this is going to be a bigger and bigger aspect of the future of personal training. And just the whole notion of health in general, when we see Apple and what's going on with their collaborations with healthcare systems, not just in the US, but in Singapore and elsewhere, including Europe, and this new platform building where the collection of data, the ability to understand and create the opportunity for professionals to support, intervene, and help people along their journey in more meaningful ways will become a very center of the plate dynamic in our industry space in the coming years. So that's my viewpoint. I didn't quite take up the full 20 minutes, Julian, but I hope that was a refreshing enough recap and will help everybody in the audience have a more in-depth and meaningful conversation.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, Bryan. That's, I think, given us some real insight there. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm wondering, you know, what exactly are the skills that individual, I'm not even sure whether we call that individual a personal trainer or a health coach or whatever that term may be. But from my point of view, from an educational standards point of view, I'm thinking, what are the key skills there? So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have the discussion, but I guess digital skills are going to be absolutely key, right? So the ability to work with various technology. I would, it seems to me, I think I heard the phrase before that data is the new oil. So that these health coaches, these fitness professionals of the future are really going to need to be able to leverage data to support people in that health journey that you have talked about, to facilitate that health journey. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I would tell you this, the technology is going to become easier and easier for people to utilize. What we're going to see that's very profound in the coming years is what can't be digitized is going to become more valuable. So things like empathy, things like trust, things like, trust is the most valuable commodity today. It's more valuable than data. In fact, data's done a lot to undermine our trust, as we talked about before we got online. So I think that as digitization commoditizes certain services and products, what is human is going to become the real important grease in the gears, because that's going to be a point of intense differentiation. Now, of course, with AI and other aspects of technologies, you are going to be able to have pure digital interactions. And in fact, for anyone that's conducted business with Apple via their digital platforms or Amazon or other European-based e-commerce platforms, you never talk to a person, hardly ever. And those businesses score very high on NPS, but those are commercial transaction businesses. Increasingly, brands like Apple in their in-store experience and others, it's that deft integration of that human touch at the right points, reinforcing trust, empathy, understanding. Machines don't do that real well right now.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think the soft skill sets are actually going to become more valuable as digitization continues to proliferate. So certainly, I think reducing people's anxiety or fear about technology tools is important. I think understanding the platforms and strategies for those tools is important. But I think also what will become even more essential is how to figure out how to be as human as possible in those experiences.
No, that's yeah, that's brilliant, Bryan. That's really telling. I mean, of course, the industry has for some time, I guess, been talking about, if we can call them soft skills, I don't know, but those behavioral management, those strategies, empathy. We can think of motivational interviewing type techniques, etc. But those those human qualities that the trainer of the future needs to bring to bear. And it's great to hear that they'll have greater value.
I think they will. And, you know, I'm very optimistic about the future. It's a painful transition for many. And so I regret that. But as I mentioned during the brief overview, you know, all that this has done is accelerated what was already underway. As painful as it is, we've leaped 5 years ahead in a matter of months. And you know, there's good to that and bad to that. But I would say that for those that are open-minded to new opportunity, these are some breadcrumbs that I think provide a roadmap to really stay focused on in the coming months and years.
I think that's exactly what you've done, and yes, we'll try and follow those breadcrumbs, Bryan. But I really appreciate your time today. Fantastic insights, and I'm sure that'll generate some fascinating discussions. But thank you again.
Thank you all very much. Have a great event. I wish I was there in person. Hopefully next year.
Yeah, next year, Bryan. We'll see you there.
Take care.